And we're live. Thanks everyone for joining. I'm Travis from Colossia AI, where we bridge the gap between sales and marketing through our proprietary sales enablement process. Today, I'm quite excited to welcome Anees Mohamed from One Deal a Day. Welcome, Mohamed. Mr. Mohamed, thanks for joining.
Thank you, Travis. It's awesome to be here. We've had countless conversations to do something like this, and I couldn't be happier.
No, absolutely. And glad that we're finally here. And I think what I'm really excited to get into today, Anees, is a bit of insight into your journey from your first business right the way through to today, and I think the learnings within that. And if we can just jump into that, that would be amazing.
Cool. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, kick us off, right? So, you started your first e-commerce store very early. I think that was 2010, 2009, right? So that was well before e-commerce was very widely adopted. What was what inspired you to like really get started into online deals?
So basically, it was, if you looked at it in e-commerce and online, what was happening during that time is that there wasn't, I wouldn't say known websites at the time, and if you were up against certain people, or if you had to join the space, it was only like 4 or 5 to name a few, at the time. I mean, before Take a Lot, and during that time it was known as Take Two, then there was something called Kalahari.net, and all of these websites, obviously over the years, also have changed names and changed companies. And when I looked at the space, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Firstly, it's new. It's not your brick and mortar. And then I was like, this is interesting. No barriers to entry. Yes, you needed to know a lot about how to run e-commerce. So, that had to take place where you had to do a lot of readings and findings of how e-commerce works with the process. But that's not too bad if you're going to put your head down. And then, yeah, I launched my first website. It was 2012, Red Chili Deals. But prior to Red Chili Deals, I was already sort of a supplier to some of these e-commerce stores. So I could already see the uptake of sales and how things were working and processes, which was a good scope for me to say, okay, there is a huge market and there's a huge potential market for online, and I need to get into the space.
That's amazing, right? To see that so early is that's fantastic. And were there anything? Were there any lessons from then that really could still apply to businesses today? Like, it's quite a broad question, but just to ask it.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, we have to. We're going back into time a little bit here, but we have to understand is that what was being sold at that point, like what were people interested in and what do they want? So, for example, if we look at the period of the early 2010s, 2011s, and so on, and we look at it now, let's take, for example, books, right? When you bought a book online, you physically still got a delivery of a page book. Well, now, if you buy a book, you're most likely going to opt for a digital version of the book, right?
Yeah.
So the difference is already there. You can already see how market has changed, and that's what keeps you going. Is from then to now is evolve, change, innovate, and keep up with trends and what's actually happening with the market. If you keep ahead of that, you'll be in this for the long run, definitely.
No, for sure. Well, look, I mean, there's quite easy ways to find trending products and everything like that, but it sounds like there's a little bit more to that. And um, so, red red chili deals. A couple years later, One Deal a Day came about. Um, how did that decision come out? Say, okay, well, deals are now a thing for us. The one deal per
Yeah.
day. And that to me sounds so risky. Like I'm quite risk averse in that sense, and rather going into something that could generate more opportunity. Where this sounds quite
Yeah.
rigid.
Yeah. So what happens is now we own an e-commerce store, right? So it's been 2 to 3 years in it, 2012, 2013, 2014. Now statistically, we're looking at all of the stuff that's been sold in the prior years, how many people bought it, etc. And then we realize that why we're losing sales, or why are sales not as high as what it should be continuing with Red Chili deals, is because there isn't any persuasion, and persuasion can come from many ways. It can come from pricing to product to timing to trending to statistical. So there's all of these questions, and you think to yourself, okay, the reason why Red Chili Deals is not going onto the next level is because it's now just another e-commerce store. So we need to bring all of these concepts into one place and make sure that we can deliver to what clients want, but don't confuse them. Make sure we make it simple.
So that's where I think your UX designers, UI designers will say simplicity is everything. So your idea came from the more simplistic approach. Say people are going to want an office chair eventually. I've certainly come home at the end of the day and seen a one deal a day box, and I'm like, so what did we get? What was
Yeah.
the deal? I'm super curious to find out. Okay, and you mentioned it now, right? Like the e-commerce store space is hyper competitive. What do you think current e-commerce companies could do to really drive more conversions?
So definitely you have to have an easy process, right? I think it starts with when you look at a conversion, can you bring it into a reality of how people are going to actually encounter a process with you? So, look, it sounds confusing, but to simplify it, I want to convert a normal person that's coming onto my store easily, buys a product, sees a product, purchases it with a credit card. They must trust me, and then there must be follow throughs. So take a layman and say, okay, I need to get a person that knows not so much about online shopping, but wants to buy something and make it easy for them to check out. The one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to confuse them by giving them too many product range. Stick to one, great pricing, easy checkout, and it will move straight onto payment page, put in the card details, gets an
Yeah.
invoice straight into the mailbox, and yeah, basically just make it easy for people.
Keep it simple.
Keep it
Again,
simple.
coming
Yeah.
through. Okay, and throughout the journey, there's obviously been organic content going out. There's been paid ads. There's been SEO. There's been um, pamphlets, I'm sure. And which one of those strategies have really stood the test of time? Where it doesn't matter what day of the month it is, what year it is, it's going to work.
So for me, that would be email. So the email marketing strategy. Yeah. Sorry, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, no, I was
Sorry.
just reiterating. Yeah. Okay, so
So
email.
yeah, yeah. So email marketing strategy is still until today is the most effective marketing strategy that you can find with regards to long lasting. Send a specific deal at a specific time to specific people, and yeah, and they're gonna buy from you.
And so that's quite interesting. I got so many more questions. I just want to get through the good ones. I'll come back to a few at the end. But and has the jumping into the customer journey side of it, right? Has the has the mindset of the shopper evolved from say 2010 to 2015, 2015 to 20? Was there something around COVID that shifted as well from a personalization perspective? What do you have in that sense?
Yeah, well, look, I think that what has happened, right, is that online shopping is always going to be now part of every household, right? So it's a norm. It's become a norm for people to go online and buy, right?
Yeah.
So what we need to understand is that the mindset of selling online is now with everybody. So between 2010 to 2015, it was a bit more difficult to kind of hustle online or try to get the person to buy online because it was like so many questions. Can I trust them? Where are they from? Where's their address? Can I go to their store? Then from 2015 to 2020, it was like, okay, I'm kind of getting used to, buying online. And then the likes of the competitors coming online, also letting people understand how the online process works was also beneficial for small businesses like myself, because that's where it was. That's where the tension was. And then from 2020, from COVID, I mean, that's when it just exploded because people were just only buying online because of the restrictions, right? So from 2020
Absolutely.
onwards, I think from 2020 onwards, it's just a massive explosion online.
Yeah. And I found that also during that time, a lot of brands realized that and almost doubled down on content, and double down on ads. I just remember seeing um, the absolute top rates on Google shot up for some industries. I saw quite a lot around the paid ads. The real estate the available real estate was shrinking rapidly. So that was quite interesting. And with the content perspective, right? What role did content play in this journey of yours throughout the years?
So you must. The other thing that was quite interesting was, like you're saying, content, right? Is okay. We have this online store. We have these products. We have these prices. We have everything. Now the online shopping is taking place. It's going faster than the speed of light. The one thing I can add to that is that we were one of the lucky guys that we didn't have to think about a process when selling online. We had everything ready. So when it was time to get back to the office after the lockdown or the hard lockdown, it literally, we just clicked the button and we saw this thing shoot phenomenally, like we never seen numbers like that. And then what happens is, as time goes by, need to maintain those numbers, taking the content, putting it on social media. At the time, Facebook, Instagram, massive. TikTok, because of the lockdown, was now starting to also get a lot of movement, you know. And also, what we realized in this time was that we have to be on these platforms. So we were putting a lot of content out on these platforms, trying to grow the pages on both Instagram and Facebook, and it was effective, definitely.
So that's interesting. And like with all these brands busy advertising on the various platforms and taking up more real estate and kind of vying for position here. Um, how do you personally at One Deal a Day create that connection with the customer where they feel appreciated? They're not just a number to you. Complaints are dealt with effectively. Because it's so transactional, like how do you deal with that?
So what's funny is that when people spend money, right, it becomes a very emotional thing, regardless of whatever transaction takes place, whether it's a transaction for 50 rand or 100 rand or even 200 rand. The fact that somebody's transferring over their money to you in trust, it's already become emotional. So knowing that you're selling a product, and especially with our concept of one deal, making sure that the pricing is phenomenally great, that emotional part is already exchanged. Wow, this is a good price. I can get this item at this price. I'm willing to take the chance, because that's the perception that some of the customers had initially. If I lose, I'm only losing $100, but it was never going to be a losing situation. It just wanted to show you that there is a reality of a website like One Deal a Day that gives great pricing no matter what.
So that's interesting, right? And the it sounds like there's an element of a social selling, like an element of kind of post-purchase engagements, funnels, etc. But part of the social selling side, um, have you seen anything recently that has, from a social selling perspective, that surprised you or worked really well in your business currently?
Yes, 100%. I mean, that's a very good question, because now again, we go back 2010, 2015, 2020, how things changed. Between 2020 and now, the social aspect of selling is putting yourself out there on socials, especially like TikTok. TikTok is actually leveled up the game on selling. If you can put yourself behind the camera and sell your product and tell people that this is exciting, and they're watching it, like their screen is right in front of them like this, they are going to buy, because you not just selling yourself as a person or how you look or your appearance, but you're actually showing now the true value of what the person is going to be exchanging their money with the product right in front of their screen. So I think TikTok right now is really changing the game.
So that's interesting. And when you say to sell on TikTok, I just have this image of a TikTok um, content farm where there's a lady or man standing in front of like 200 phones, busy going live on TikTok to try hack the algorithm. Just making sure you don't mean that, right? You mean something completely different, a bit more personal, a bit more relevant, right? Okay, I got you.
Yes. Because,
Okay.
because you see, there's a continuation on that, right? It's like, now how do I complete the sale after they've seen me? So that's the trick. And I think that's leading up to what's coming next in the series is, or this questions is, it's happening on TikTok where you can show and the conversion now takes place on WhatsApp.
Interesting, right? So um, that almost leans into a bit of the social selling side. So, persons engage with your brand. You're now saying that traditional methods have worked relatively well, but now you're saying that there's another element that people should be thinking about, right? And
Yes,
that's
100.
WhatsApp selling.
Yes, 100%. Because you see, what's happening is that the person seeing you on TikTok, they're engaging with you. In fact, like I said, you can never see a person's emotional behind the screen, but you can make it emotional for them, right? By telling them what's the benefits, why you should get it, besides the price and that emotion part of it. But why does somebody need something can be explained, and how are they going to get it? If you say you're going to get it via WhatsApp, chat to me or call me or whatever it is, it also it also adds to the trust factor of, you know what, I've seen this guy behind the screen, I see what he's doing promotionally. I'm going to actually send this guy a message, and I'm gonna see if I can get this item.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that adds a few layers, right? That's interesting. Okay. And for me, then, let's say we've now got my new um, online store. Decided I feel like opening another business, and I'm trying social. I'm trying WhatsApp. I'm trying TikTok. I'm not quite getting it right. At what stage during that process, like when do you recommend that it's now time to pivot or to tweak something? Like how much time do you leave everything like that?
So look, I mean, Travis, if I go again back into time, the first order I got online was 6 weeks after I opened up my first online store. I mean, for 6 weeks, I would literally click the
Stressful.
button. Yeah, stressful. I I didn't know what I was doing. Yes, I had the knowledge prior, like I said, I read up on it. But when you're practically doing something and you're not seeing it happening in front of you, like, okay, is this is this actually something that I want to get myself into? But it's all about time, right? So if you're gonna do, and it's funny because you look at even the social media guys or the social content creators, you're not gonna recognize somebody that makes a video once or twice or three or four times. It actually takes 100 videos or 200 videos for that person to be recognized. And similarly, it's the same thing that goes on with regards to TikTok selling, and not just the TikTok, because you're gonna get them from TikTok onto a WhatsApp platform, and once you have them on the WhatsApp platform, it's continuous conversational marketing and chatting and, hi, how are you today? You bought from me 2 weeks ago. I saw you on TikTok. Have you seen my latest video? Here's it here. Did you see this new product? You're making it so much more easier than a person going the traditional route only via online, and you're giving them these multiple options to buy from you. So I always feel that WhatsApp and TikTok is definitely the future of commerce, or e-commerce rather. You know.
Okay, so it sounds like that there's when something isn't working, double down into the platforms that are like trending at the moment and just get those right. I just got a question here from Mary. Mary asks, "What is the role of personal branding when it comes to amplifying your brand?" Should we get to that later, or are you happy to just jump into that now, Anis?
I think, and I hope this answer will be correct for Mary. Thank you for the question. Be authentic. If you can be yourself behind the camera, and just be cool. And people will like you when they see that you're authentic. You know, this is what changes the game. At least for me, I'm on TikTok. I sell on TikTok, and
Yeah.
I am who I am. I'm gonna sell you a product. If the product's bad, also I'm gonna say, guys, what? Listen, it may be cheap, but you're not gonna get a Ferrari here. You know what I'm trying to say? But you're being honest and you're being truthful, not just to yourself. You're being authentic. You're showing the audience who you truly are, and that changes the difference between you and other social people that are on the platform. So I hope
Thank
I
you. I
hope that
absolutely love that.
I hope that answers the question, Mary.
Mm. No, thank you. And the one thing that's been on my mind lately is with e-commerce, you find that brands either lean very heavily into product, into pricing, into exclusivity, and I find that the pricing war can be very, very dangerous, right? Because it's just a race to the bottom. Um, how do you how do you manage that in such an industry?
Yeah, um, I like the question. My lecturer told us once, and he says that if you don't view your competition as competition, you're a winner, because then it's no competition. So yes, we do understand, and naturally you're gonna have to look at your competition when it comes to pricing and that sort of thing. But it's also how you value yourself. So if you think that what, I have to put up prices because it is more expensive in the process to add, for example, let's take TikTok, for example, right? If I have a product, one deal a day product on TikTok, I know that the promotion is a bit higher than maybe a Facebook ad or a Instagram ad, and I have to account for that. But I do know that the person's attention is sitting on TikTok, and the sales are going to be higher. Hence the reason why I have to look at what's best for the business and how I can sort of stay afloat. So it's a tough question. I like the question, but I don't know if I'm drifting here. But I suppose the thing is that look at yourself as your own competitor
Okay,
and don't
got
let the
you.
noise distract you.
Okay, so I quite like that. I think when you have a good product, it doesn't sell itself, but it makes it easier with a strong product or service backing it, right? So I see that we are leaning up to 25 minutes, and I just want to kind of lean into something here. Anis, you mentioned WhatsApp commerce quite a lot today, and I'm intrigued because in the Asian countries, WhatsApp commerce in the end of 2023, I think sold more than websites compared to the rest of the world. That's not even a thing. And here in South Africa, WhatsApp commerce, to me at least, it's here and there, but it's not everywhere. What should people be thinking about at the moment so that they can be forward moving in this process?
Yeah, I think look, I think WhatsApp is the future. Definitely, I've been saying it for a few years now, actually. But I think WhatsApp's the future. I think that retaining customers is so easy on WhatsApp. Direct marketing is way cheaper on WhatsApp. Um, and there are one or two features that the Asian countries has that we don't. For example, I think they have where a person can buy directly from WhatsApp with the WhatsApp payment link. But in this country, we don't have that as yet. But it's simple. There's payment links that most of the payment gateways have of today. And if you get that process right, you're 100% going to do a lot of commerce on WhatsApp. And besides the commercial part of it, you're just keeping the conversation going with customers. Practical example I give you is like we sell these Huggle hoodie long blankets that cover up, yeah, most of the people. And what happens is when it's a cold day, we just simply send a person a message and say, "Are you feeling cold?" And then one of them say, "Yes." Well, here's something to keep yourself warm. Where the traditional way of doing it is like, okay, let's set up a newsletter. The weather's cold. Let's see if people look at. It's not that anymore. It's like, hey, how are you feeling today? Are you feeling cold? Let me keep you warm. Here's something that's. So it's so much more faster. It's a lot pacier, but it's a lot more effective.
So does that mean that you almost need to restructure how you create content? Do you find that chaos? I mean, in the agency space in any business, right? You want to be planning for the month ahead. It
Mm.
sounds like you adding a cog in the wheel there that's going to frighten so many people, because now all of this chaos, lastminute.com sort of thing that we need. Is that what you're saying?
So yeah, I love this. If I had to write a book, right, and somebody will say, "Give me the title of your book," it's how to change a business in 3 seconds, because that's how long it should take you. It takes 3 seconds
Yeah.
to change image, and it takes 3 seconds for you to put something new online, and that's or at least to your marketing channels. And if you can do that, I think you're way ahead of your game.
I I really like that. I think the flexibility is hugely relevant, especially with how quickly things are changing with trends coming up on TikTok. People jumping onto the trends now on LinkedIn. Everybody being those characters, right?
Yes.
Using AI for that. That's fantastic. And just on the AI topic, do you currently use AI today in one deal a day for any process that you'd like to share?
Yes, absolutely. I use AI. There's a lot of them out there. So any AI definitely works. Product images can be used with AI. You just have to get the white background, put them on ChatGPT or Claude or one of those guys, and say, "I need a lifestyle image of this," and they're getting you the best background. So we use it for images. We use it for grammar checks, and also we also use it for sometimes during a product description. So that's where the AI plugs in right now. We are definitely going to use more of it because it's always that's also changing every time there's a new feature or something new coming out on there. But for now, these are the three main ways we're using the AI. So especially when it comes to imaging, right? Because you want to give the most crisp image to a client when buying online, and the ChatGPT or Claude or any of these generative AI or any one of these guys, they really do a great job creating these realistic real life images. So yes, AI is definitely going to change the game. Sometimes even if you just take your database of sales and you'll say, here's the Excel spreadsheet, put it onto AI and say, give me the top 10 clients that spent over a grand or two, it's going to spit that information out to you. So it's really AI is also the part and parcel of how this whole thing's going to work. And also, which we did discuss just before the call, uh, AI with conversation, and I think that's also something that's really great. Having the bot replying to certain client queries and certain things that need to be done. So yes, we use AI in that regard as well. Yeah.
That's great. We're using it currently as like for audience segmentation and like audience understanding. So we're currently using it in Colossio, the software, to kind of analyze the data, put a name, a face, a location, a persona around your top three performers around like ROI and things like that. So it's great to see that there's also more practical applications that relate directly to a product page type of thing. And then my last question, we are over time here. I don't want to eat up everybody's day here, but if you had to start again from scratch, like absolute scratch, what would you do differently, and what would you double down on? I feel like we've covered some
So
of it. Yeah.
so firstly, I'm grateful for where I am today. Must make mention of that. Very blessed. So if I had to start from scratch, I try to keep I'll try to keep the data a bit more stricter or more close to my heart, because at one stage it wasn't. I didn't really look that far in advance. Like I was like, okay, today, it's just sitting there. But now I would just make sure that the data is more closer to my heart than anything else, and reading the data, analyzing the data, and looking at this a bit more than what I used to. So that I would change definitely. And what do I do to double down? There was exponential growth in COVID, like mad growth. I think that I would have doubled down during the COVID time because the process was already in place, and it was already there. I do feel that the opportunity that I didn't double down it was left me. However, it will happen again. It has to. I'm a firm believer that yes, the past is the past, but what's coming is going to be even greater.
That's great. Thank you, Anees. If anybody has any questions, drop them down below. I think we'll get to these after the the call. If anybody has anything right now, we will see it. But I just want to say thanks everyone for watching. Had quite a few viewers across the board, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube as well. Thank you for joining, and all the best for the day ahead.
Thank you,
Bye bye.
Travis. Thank you for having me. I appreciate.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.